weights off of it. Down solid on wood. We're free. Yep. All right. We're gonna maneuver this beast. Ready? Yep. Uh-oh. Oop, catching a tire.
What do you think of that? I think we're just catching it though.
Yeah. It's hitting both of them at the same time. There you go.
Okay.
Good thing they make them out of rubber.
Can't get any closer to that.
No.
I guess we could have put the lift up a little and then back down, but. Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we are going to do a quick overview on the 33 three-window project. Now, you guys may remember about a year ago, maybe a little more, I was able to purchase this car out of a newspaper. So my older friend Joe actually found this car in a weekly farmer's newspaper that is local here, and he found an ad for it, passed it on to me. I was able to purchase the car, and it is a super cool old hot rod that was channeled and chopped. With a recent phone call from Ronnie Roadster telling me that he is starting to work on the engine this winter, I'm ready to kind of follow suit and start working on this car. So a little while ago, we blew the car apart, had the frame blasted, and we kind of just stuck it in the corner and didn't really show you guys anything. So we worked on taking the body off just recently, and we have the frame all set up. And what we're going to do is to kind of show you the frame like we do a lot of these cars, show kind of the sins of the past, things we need to change. I haven't looked over it a lot since it's been blasted, so it's going to be kind of fresh to me as well, and we can get a game plan going so that we can start working on this car and make some big progress really quickly in the beginning of this winter. So let's show you the frame. All right, so we got the body separated like you guys saw. We got the frame up on stands here. I had my buddy Brooke, who does a lot of blasting for me. He was able to fit me in before fall, and we got this blasted and the rear for the 32 Schroll car and a bunch of other stuff, but mainly, and the lift. But this was the last thing we haven't really worked on from all that stuff he was blasting. So the frame is blasted and fast etched. I always do that. People ask how we keep things from rusting in the shop. On chassis, after I get them blasted, I use Eastwood fast etch. You hose it down, you get it real wet with the fast etch, then I wipe it all down with rags and take the excess off, and you leave it a little damp, and then it leaves this kind of darker gray finish that basically will not rust as long as you don't let it sit out in the rain, and you can pretty much the whole project just work around it. It works really well. So have that and that. One thing before we get into the frame, I've been gathering, I had a lot of parts laying underneath of the car for this, so I have a bunch of old chrome stuff. This is a 37 Ford V8 60 tube axle, which is like a 1 year only, one engine only. For whatever reason, they did these tube axles, but a lot of hot rodders and racers picked up these axles and like to use them. And chrome ones are even cooler, obviously. Everything old chrome is even cooler. So I found this one somewhere, and I recently just got these wishbones. And it turns out they're like the perfect length for the split wishbone mounts that are on this frame. So this car is going to be a lot like the Schroll car, where we're going to kind of keep some of the elements of what the car was back in the day and then put our own little spin on it and make it all flow together. So I'm going to put some more shiny bits on this car than it probably had. So what I had to do is I had to take these wishbones are like 32 to 4 wishbones, and that were split and chromed. They have this opening here is only 2 inch. And then this axle, these later axles are 2 1/4 inches is the opening. So the axle, they actually just milled the wishbones open more. So what you can do is put it on the mill. like I did, and mill it off, and then I filed it and worked, and it took like a day to do this. It's kind of a pain in the butt on both sides, and you get everything to slip together. And the nice thing about doing this is that you are able to use the earlier style perch pins, which are set up for spring over, whereas this axle is spring in front. So it's a cool little trick you can do. It takes a little bit of work. You can do it with like a sander and a file, but it is a little dicey if you do it totally that way. So what I was doing was using the mill. I got real close with the mill, and I just used the file and my little sander just to sneak up on it and get it just right. And then I tapped it on and it was perfect. It had a little more issues on this because everything was old chrome, so the thicknesses varied where it was chromed, and we had to just work it. So got that, got these perch pins in. I realized that I don't have chrome ones. I thought I did somewhere, so I may have to go out and hunt for a set of 32-4 chrome perch pins. But we got this together. I got old chrome drums. We've talked about that before, so I'm going to try and get that together. So the chassis, we'll start in the front and the back and kind of work over the good, bad, ugly. Number one, ugly. They just, I don't know what they were doing here. They literally just torched the horns off. It looks to me like what they were going to do, and then they ran out of time or energy. They cut this in a round, you know, cut the front of this with the round and left the overhang. I think they were going to pound these around and then weld it back together, which you used to see a lot on when they would do suicide front ends, but this has the original cross member in it, so I'm not really sure why. Now the cross member, all the rivets have been pretty much taken out, and it just has these couple of bolts in. So possibly that was the next thing they were going to do, is put a suicide front end on it, and they just had this in so the frame didn't get out of square. Don't really know, but I haven't decided on this up here what I'm going to do yet. I kind of like the front axle being like locked off, or I mean, I'm sorry, the front of the frame horns being locked off like that. So I may just kind of finish what they were doing and just weld it up. Has a stock front cross member, but they cut off the little tabs for the radiator mounts in the front here. There's a little triangle that's riveted on. That is gone, so I'm probably going to make my own. I was going to use originals, but because we're doing that Ardun with the blower and the drive setup is kind of a mystery because we don't know where that's all going to end up yet. It has to be figured out, which is, you know, stuff that Ron is doing. I don't exactly know where I'm going to put the radiator and the grill. So this I'm going to probably leave alone. Probably going to just blend this together and make this better, and then I'll build little tabs or mounts off the front for the radiator and the grill. Still has they didn't cut the front cross member up, which is very surprising. One thing they did here is they had like these slotted holes for the steering box, and then they took a piece of pipe and cut it and welded it over top. They did that right where the VIN number is. So I was like, oh, I could see some of the VIN. So if you come around this side, Mike, you can actually see they just bent the metal up, and there's the VIN number.
Oh, that's funny.
Some of the VIN numbers. So I was able to, between this and then the VIN that was back here, I was able to, you know, put together the VIN number, which is good. So we go to title it and register it. We at least have one VIN that's stamped in the frame that's legible, and we can match it to the title. So that's always good before we start. We don't want to, like, the title I have didn't match the frame. I was able to match all that stuff up, which works out awesome. So that's one big thing there.
That was your sin.
Yeah, that was my sin. So when we were test fitting the LaSalle and the engine, I just torched this out with the plasma to get this so we could fit it in there. So obviously I'm gonna plate that all in and make it look nice, but for test fitting everything, I had to just do that quickly. The other thing is that these are always trapped with grease and oil and crap, so it's actually kind of a good thing. I could scrape that all out of there, get that cleaned up. We can rust proof the inside of that, and then I can just weld a piece in there and box it in, and whatever we're going to do with the trans mount, we can kind of take care of there. I can build off of that, which works out really nice. They built these, like we mentioned before, there's these heavy plates that were for the split wishbones. They actually did a pretty nice job on it. It's the way it's welded.
And it has a bung welded.
Yeah, it actually has a tapered bung welded. Sometimes on these early hot rods, they would just drill a hole, and that's not really how tie rods are supposed to work. So this actually has a tapered bung in it, so that's nice. So I'm gonna probably use this, and the only thing we may do is, depending on the caster that is in those front chrome wishbones, we may just move this up or down just a little bit to get it all dialed in, which is just possibly drilling some new holes, but we're gonna try and use that. These brackets behind it were how they were mounting the body. So you can see there was two sets of holes. The upper hole was about where we had the body moved up to when we unchanneled it a little bit. So they must have channeled the car and then said, screw it, this isn't enough. We're gonna channel this thing 10 inches. So they went down another 4 or 5 inches, and that's where the bottom hole is. And that's where it was when we bought the car. It was just like ridiculous. So I raised it up a little bit. With it being chopped, we had to do something. So those brackets I'm gonna probably leave alone for right now. Again, I may retain them, but I haven't decided yet. But we may go the route of doing like the Stroll car, where we kind of weld brackets in at the A and B pillars. I really liked how that car worked out. So we may get rid of these and go that route, but I haven't quite decided. I have to stare at the car a little bit first. Everything back here, like this back half of the part of the frame, is pretty good. This is kind of a typical monstrosity of shock mount. It's like a bolt with a washer, piece of angle iron, flat stock, just whatever was laying around on the floor or in the barn is what they used. I think this is going to be an issue with the floor, but I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. I kind of love this kooky stuff because it just shows it's an old hot rod. Again, it's a shock mount, so it's probably strong enough. I mean, it lasts all this time. But we're going to go over it, like right here, obviously. They like torched it out, so I need to at least go over that.
Yes.
If we're going to keep that. They lopped off the rear frame rails a little bit because the car's channeled. The frame rails would come out further for the gas tank to sit back there on 34s. That's how they sat, like under the body. When you're channeling them, you have to kind of lop it off. So that's what they did. They had this tubular cross member they put in here with the flat plate, and then they just had U-bolts through on the stock spring. That seemed to work okay, but I'm gonna bet it's probably like the Stroll car. When you go to set the pinion angle or look at it, it's probably totally off. And I won't make that mistake again. I'm just assuming it's okay. So the other problem is I'd like to run a quick change on this. So I have this old Franklin cast iron quick change. It's actually an original banjo rear that's been converted. It was done back in the early Franklin quick changes were done that way. Scored that center section at Carlisle, Spring Carlisle, I forget, but it's perfect for the car. So because I got a quick change for it now, we can't put a super flat spring because then you won't be able to change the rear cover.
No longer a quick change.
Yeah. So we're gonna probably have to put a Model A rear cross member in here. So because of that, we're probably gonna have to cut this stuff out. So just catch-22, there's really nothing we can do. Either way, I'm gonna have to probably cut on that and adjust it because the pinion angle is probably wrong. So we might as well just cut it out. So luckily the frame, everything else is still bolted and riveted together. I'll probably just put a brace across it, and then we can put a new cross member in here. So I'm gonna have to like extend a Model A cross member so that it goes out and fits this. But we'll probably, luckily the holes are still here for the original cross member, so we can kind of like line them up, and it should work out okay when we do that. So that's kind of the major stuff on the frame. Overall, it's not really pitted or like really that bad. It's actually a lot better than the Stroll car. So we went to the scrapyard. That was the other thing we did.
Went to Glicks.
Went to Glicks.
So fast.
That's 50.
That is your OSHA approved iron.
It's 50 feet.
All right, so we need one more section.
Oh, that one's a little funny.
Got a kink in it. You cut back further. That was fine.
It's got a nice. That'll work good for one of the frame rails.
Yeah, somebody already put a. It's a custom. That's good. Step on it.
Working hard. Are your hands even dirty?
From yesterday. Leave me alone.
Steve's the only smart one that brought gloves.
I remembered him anyhow.
We can just build our pole barn, whole building here. We don't even need to have anyone do it.
It wasn't for permits.
Yeah.
and they luckily had more of this 1 by 2 inch wide by, I think it's 16 gauge wall box tubing, and that's what we used on the stroll car. I really liked how all that turned out. It was kind of like a fun, tedious process, but fun also, but it came out looking really nice. And the way we were able to do the flat floor, I was really happy with how that all went. So we're gonna do the same thing on this car. It's kind of a nice universal way that you can build a floor. It looks nice, but you don't have to spend crazy money or go through a long waiting process to get like reproduction floors, quote unquote. So you can get a floor built for literally, what is this? We got like a truck full of stuff. I think it was $90 some, and we got this. I don't know, we got like 80 feet of box tubing and like a bunch of flat stock and other square tubing. And we spent like under $100, and then sheet metal. So you could basically be into sub rails and floors for, I don't know, a couple $100, let's say.
Say 5. We'll make it 500.
500?
Sheet metal.
Sheet metal should be like let's say a sheet's $100, $200. So
That's true.
You're into like $200-300. You can be into a sub rails and a floor if you're able to do the work. So we're gonna do the same process on this, where we're gonna set it on here. And we were just looking at a 33 floor frame. I think has even more like shape to it than so this is what we're starting with. So this has to go down, out, around. It really shows you how much you have to shape these outer rails. So we had Jeff was nice enough to go with the SCT and strip all these to get everything nice and ready and clean. So I could start working on cutting this, shaping it, and it is kind of a, I guess you could say, crude or backyard way to do it, but the finished product I thought was pretty nice on this. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the next video. So next video we're going to work on getting sub rails built for this that bolt down to the frame. I may also work on repairing some of that stuff in the front, and we'll work on getting some of that stuff built so we can kind of set the body down. And I'm going to leave this cross member stuff probably alone till we get the body situated where we want it to be, and then we can go back, change the cross member, get all that stuff set up. But I want to get the body so that the doors open and shut. It has a floor. It is something we can work with, and with no floors on there, we can kind of just work on, we can take the floors out, obviously in the rear, and build the rear cross member. So that's the game plan for this. We're going to be hitting this pretty hard in the next couple months probably, and hopefully have a body that bolts down and doors that open and shut, and it'll be really cool. But I am a long ways away. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We got these, you know, the 16-inch wheels. I have 40 Ford style wheels. They're 4.5 in the rears, and these are actually 3.5. So these are like 46/8 wheels, and these are V860 wheels. Again, they're 1940 Ford V860 wheels. They were narrower, so those are 3.5 inch wide. Looks cool with the small wheels in the front. Gives it kind of a aggressive look with these big beefy back tires. So pretty excited to kind of put all these pieces together and see the car mocked up like for real, because we had like the drums just lightly set on. It was like everything was barely together, so be good. So that is a quick update on this. We're going to be making some moves on this. People are constantly asking us about this car, so we figured we'd do a kind of a preview of what's going on and some of the sins on it. And in the next video on this car, I should be starting to build some of these sub rails and making some actual progress. So thank you guys for following along. Really appreciate it. Catch you later.